Welcome back to the journey through real-life mysteries and chilling true stories. And if this is your first time here, be prepared, because the stories you're about to hear won't just send shivers down your spine. They'll make you wonder what might be lurking just beyond what we can see. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share this channel with fellow seekers of the strange and unexplained. Are you ready? The journey begins now. A woman was found dead inside a chimney, inside a locked cabin with no entry point. No one knows who she was. No one saw her arrive. And the chimney? It wasn't accessible from outside. 23 years earlier, a man died in the exact same way. Both left strange notes in Old German about the smoke. Did she ever arrive? Or had she always been there? The Woman in the Chimney. Trondheim, Norway, 1995. A woman was found dead, wedged deep inside a chimney, inside a locked cabin in the mountains. No cameras, no footprints, no way in. So how did she get there? In December 1995, police in Trondheim, Norway, received a baffling report. The body of a woman had been found stuck inside the chimney of an abandoned mountain cabin in Landstrand, a remote forested area far from any village. The circumstances were strange beyond explanation. The chimney had no external access from the roof, just a straight flue down to the fireplace. All doors and windows were locked from the inside. The cabin had been empty for over 7 months. No electricity, no security cameras. The woman had no ID, no visible trauma, no drugs or toxins. She wore a winter sweater, jeans, and wool socks, completely ordinary attire. Her fingernails were freshly trimmed, and her shoes were missing. Forensics described it as one of the most impossible deaths ever recorded. To this day, her identity remains unknown, and the case is still classified as unsolved. Among police circles in Norway, it is referred to only as the Chimney Lady. On December 14, 1995, Torvald Jensen, a property inspector, arrived at cabin number 17 in the Landstrand woods to assess it for resale. The cabin had been vacant since spring, following the death of its previous owner. When Jensen entered, he noticed the fireplace was cold, and there was a strange odor in the room. He opened the metal grate and jumped back in horror. A tangle of hair and a human shoulder were visible among the soot and ash. Authorities were called. It took nearly 9 hours to extract the corpse. A woman between 25 to 35 years old, folded unnaturally in the chimney flue, face down above the hearth, compacted by gravity. No signs of struggle, no bruising, no defensive wounds. She carried no ID, no wallet, no phone. Her face was distorted slightly due to the position and pressure of her body in the flue. But what alarmed investigators most was this. There were no scratch marks inside the chimney and no attempt to climb out. Time of death: estimated 72 hours before discovery. Her attire was suited for cold weather: jeans, wool socks, Norwegian sweater, like someone who had hiked there on foot. No one in the nearby towns recognized her. Her fingerprints were not in any Norwegian or international database. Police reconstructed her face using forensic imaging and released it to the media. No one ever came forward. She was, in every sense, a person without a past. Initial theory suggested she climbed onto the roof and entered the chimney. But that idea collapsed quickly. The roof had no access ladder, no loose tiles, and was a solid steel sheet structure. No footprints were found in the fresh snow atop the roof. The only way into the cabin, through the front door, was locked from inside. There were no signs of break-in, no tampered locks, no tracks around the property. How did she get inside? No one saw her enter. No one let her in. She didn't fall from above. She was just there, without passing through any human way. While examining the interior of the cabin, investigators found a curious item: a single slip of paper on the dusty kitchen counter, written in thin, slanted handwriting in Old German. It read, "Ich bin aus dem Rauch gekommen." I never came out of the smoke. The note was pristine. No dust, no aging or water damage, despite the cabin being uninhabited for 7 months. It was as if the note had just been placed there. There was no matching paper or ink anywhere else in the cabin. It was the only clue left behind, and no one could explain how it got there. Autopsy revealed her pupils were severely dilated, as if she had died in a state of extreme fear or shock. Yet there was no evidence of physical trauma, no drugs, no poisons. Her internal organs were healthy. Her blood work showed nothing abnormal, except for one impossible detail. In one vein of her left wrist, her blood had not yet coagulated. She had been dead for over 72 hours, the forensic report noted. It's as if a part of her body refused to acknowledge death. Speculation began. Genetic mutation? No signs. Rare condition? None identified. Spontaneous death? Impossible to prove. What killed her remained, like everything else, impossible. Retired Detective Morton Halder contacted investigators after reading about the case. He recalled a nearly identical incident from 1972. In the same region, a man was found dead inside a chimney of a different cabin. That man, too, was unidentified. No ID, no signs of trauma, no way in. The chimney was sealed, the door locked. Reviewing the old case files, police found a disturbing coincidence. A handwritten note had been found next to the fireplace in 1972. It read, "Ich bin nie durch den Rauch gegangen." I never went through the smoke. 2 deaths, 2 chimneys, 2 notes, 23 years apart. In 2020, a private Scandinavian paranormal research team published a paper suggesting that cabin number 17 may sit on a temporal layer interference field, a spot where certain electromagnetic frequencies overlap in irregular ways. Such areas, they theorized, could open temporary pockets of space, gateways not through distance, but through time or alternate dimensions. If true, the woman didn't enter the cabin. She emerged from somewhere else. Her death may not have been an accident, but a consequence of crossing through something not made for humans. And no one knows what she saw. No one knows why she ended up in that chimney. But those who removed her body remember her eyes, wide open, glassy, and eerily serene.as if she had seen everything and never wanted to see again. If she never entered the cabin, was she always there? Or was the chimney not just for smoke, but for passage? Have you ever dozed off while reading a book? Maybe it's just fatigue. But what if everyone fell asleep at the same time, in the same place, and shared the exact same dream? A book with no title, no author, yet it writes your name on it. Blank pages. You try to read on, but the further you go, the less you feel yourself being you. You wake up remembering every line, though the language has never existed in any known culture, and the last thing you read was, when you reach the final page, you will never wake again. So tell me, what if right now you're reading that book? The Sleeping Library, Copenhagen, Denmark, 1974. A basement, a recurring dream, and a book no one has ever finished. This story originates from the Frederiksberg Library in Copenhagen, a neoclassical building constructed in 1884 that in 1974. The library's basement level was permanently closed after a series of inexplicable incidents involving readers' reports from staff and local police documented that multiple patrons fell asleep simultaneously while reading in the basement, all described the same dream. I was sitting alone in a dark reading room. On the table lay a thick, untitled book. The first page was blank. The second began to spell out my name. One man awoke and transcribed over 30 pages from the book he read in the dream, written in an unknown language. The Danish Institute of Linguistics analyzed the text and could only decipher a single phrase. When you reach the final page, you will never wake up again. The basement of Frederiksberg Library always felt off. Despite full lighting, visitors often described how the lights seemed to be absorbed into the walls, and footsteps no longer echoed once inside. A history student named Matthias Lorenzen was the first to report an incident. While searching for medieval texts, he noticed the light dimmed unnaturally, and his footfalls made no sound past the third row of shelves. He borrowed a book on Danish medieval history, and by page 34, he passed out at the desk, despite never having a history of sleep disorders. When found 45 minutes later, he had a light nosebleed and recounted a dream that would never leave him. Matthias described sitting in a different library, darker than any real place, its towering shelves stretching toward a ceiling he couldn't see. All books were identical, gray, thick, and untitled. He picked one up. The first page was blank. The second began to display his name, letter by letter, as if the page was birthing the ink. What followed were cryptic lines like, "This page did not exist until you looked. You are the author, also the reader." The deeper he read, the more intense the pain in his skull became. Then, a blinding white. Within 3 weeks, 6 more patrons experienced the same. They fell asleep while reading in the basement, could not be awakened by staff who reported the exact same dream. The silent library, the gray book, their name one of them. A primary school teacher named Frau Ilsa even drew the book she'd seen. Oddly, the dimensions, number of pages, and cover details matched Matthias' drawing, despite never having met or spoken to him. The most pivotal figure was Erik Madsen, 47, an archivist from the National Museum. He alone could remember entire passages from the dream book and, over 5 days, wrote down a 32-page manuscript in a completely unknown language. Experts from the Danish Linguistic Institute concluded it wasn't a known ancient dialect, a not computer code, a not related to Indo-European, Semitic, or Finno-Ugric families, however. The structure resembled chants or rituals with recurring syllabic patterns. Only one fragment could be translated. When you reach the last page, the dream continues, but you do not. Amid public pressure, the library closed the basement. Yet a group of students, Matthias included, sneaked in to investigate. Behind the last row of shelves, they found a section of concrete wall unevenly sealed. When they broke it open, they discovered a small, old chamber. On the floor stood a black stone table with a single dusty, untitled book. When one student touched the book, all basement lights cut out for exactly 2 minutes. Their phone recorder later revealed a reversed whisper. You are reading someone else's dream. Be careful. Erik Madsen requested to read his own manuscript again. Under surveillance at page 28, he stopped blinking. At page 31, he no longer responded to light. At page 32, blood trickled from his ears, though he kept reading. The footage showed Erik gently collapsing, eyes wide open. Official cause of death, cardiac arrest. No medical explanation. After Erik's death, the manuscript vanished from archives. Soon, those who had interacted with Erik began having the same dream, even without entering the basement. Many claimed they saw Erik still sitting in that dream library, flipping through blank pages that seemed to fill themselves that a young student once murmured in her sleep. They aren't words, they're doors. Each line opens another place. But if you open too many, you can't come back. We believe dreams are harmless, that books stay on shelves. But what if there's a place where words and consciousness merge? A library where every page was never written, but always read. Then tell me, when you reach the final page, have you written the dream or become someone else's story? A young woman vanishes in the heart of Los Angeles. Her final video sends chills across the globe. Strange behavior, as if fleeing from something invisible. Days later, her body is found inside a rooftop water tank. Where she died was the source of water guests drank, bathed in, and brushed their teeth with. This isn't just a disappearance. It's a door into a chilling mystery called the Cecil Hotel. Elisa Lam and the Cecil Hotel, mystery in the water. Los Angeles, the city of lights, fame, and Hollywood dreams. But nestled within it, on the old corner of Main Street, stands a place no one dreams of entering. The Cecil Hotel, a structure steeped in death and darkness. Since its opening, in 1927, the hotel has served as a final stop for lost souls, serial killers, suicides, disappearances, and in 2013, Elisa Lam checked in, unaware that she would never check out. Elisa, 21 years old, was a Canadian student of Chinese descent. She suffered from bipolar disorder, but always tried to live positively. In January 2013, she embarked on a solo journey through Southern California, a trip for healing, for journaling. Her thoughts and photos, Cecil was merely a waypoint on her adventure. But that building, with its labyrinthine halls and haunted past, was not just a hotel. It was a blurred threshold between reality and something much darker. On January 31st, Elisa vanished. No warning, no trace. Her family called. The police began a search. They reviewed the surveillance footage, and then came the elevator video, for minutes long, yet brimming with unease and contradictions. The footage, Elisa enters the elevator, looking anxious, hiding, waving as if speaking to an invisible presence. She presses multiple buttons, but the elevator doesn't move. She steps in and out, contorting her limbs, behaving erratically, and then she disappears. Moments later, the elevator resumes as if nothing happened. The video spread like wildfire. Millions watched, slowed it down, zoomed in, and nearly all reached the same conclusion. Something was horribly wrong that defied all explanation. For 19 days, Elisa remained missing, until hotel guests began complaining. The tap water was foul-smelling, discolored, and had a strange taste. A maintenance worker climbed to the rooftop, an area secured by locks, alarms, and rules, and opened one of 4 water tanks. Inside, floating naked and lifeless, was Elisa Lam. Her clothes and belongings floated nearby. Her eyes remained open, as if staring at something she had seen, something the world was never meant to understand. How did she get there? The roof was locked. The tank was heavy, and there were no ladders inside. No surveillance footage, no signs of foul play, no answers. If it was an accident, why no screams, no splashes, no trace of struggle? Did she enter willingly? Or was she pulled in by something unseen? The official autopsy ruled the cause of death as accidental drowning, influenced by her mental illness. But many rejected that conclusion. Some believed she suffered a psychotic episode, climbing into the tank on her own. But how could she lift the lid, navigate the area, and seal herself in? Others suggested a supernatural force, a shadow that had haunted the hotel since its opening, lured or dragged her in. Internet sleuths dissected the footage, claiming parts were edited, seconds cut, and faint figures visible in reflections. It was as if Elisa wasn't alone in the elevator after all. Cecil wasn't Elisa's first brush with danger, but it was her last. The hotel had previously housed Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, serial killer, and Jack Unterweger, who murdered prostitutes while posing as a journalist. A woman, once jumped from the 9th floor and crushed a man walking below. Decades earlier, Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia, was reportedly last seen drinking at the hotel bar before her infamous murder. Cecil had long since stopped being just a building. It had become a graveyard of time, where evil clung to the bricks like mold. Elisa was returned to Canada and laid to rest in silence. Her family never sued, never gave interviews. They simply disappeared from public view. But the world could not forget. Her story spawned documentaries, forums, conspiracy theories. People stopped seeing the Cecil as a hotel and started seeing it as a symbol of the collapse between reality and the invisible dark. And the elevator video. It still exists, still circulates, still haunts. Each time someone watches, they see something new. A flicker, a shadow, a glitch, a whisper through the screen. Maybe Elisa saw what we were never meant to. Maybe, in the end, it was the hotel itself, Cecil, that killed her. Nine hikers vanish in the Russian winter. When they're found, they're scattered in the snow, one without eyes, another without a tongue, one crushed as if by a tank. The tent is slashed from the inside. No one is fully dressed. No one ran back. Their clothes carry radiation. The snow holds no blood. Whoever killed them left no trace. They didn't die from the cold. They died from fear, because they saw something not of this world. Blood in the snow on Death Mountain. Moscow, February 27, 1959. The Ural Regional Security Office receives an urgent wire. The Sverdlovsk authorities report lost contact with the Dyatlov hiking group. 9 individuals, young, comprising engineering students, a doctor, a nurse, led by team leader Igor Dyatlov. Last seen on the northern slope of Mount Kolytsyakhl. In the language of the Mansi people, Kolytsyakhl means Mountain of the Dead. KGB immediately dispatches a covert operations unit to accompany the civilian rescue team. Orders are clear: retrieve the bodies. Secure the entire site. No information is to reach the press or civilians. February 1st, 1959. Altitude, 1,070 meters. Temperature, -30 degrees C. Igor Dyatlov, age 23, sets up camp on the snowy mountainside with 8 companions. The snow is deep, the wind howls, and darkness falls early at 5 a.m. A piercing scream rips through the tent. The fabric is slashed from the inside with a knife. 8 people flee into the freezing darkness, half-dressed, some barefoot, as if running from something no one dares to name. A local witness later reports, "I heard a sound, like metal twisting in the wind, and then absolute silence." February 26th. The first 2 bodies are found beneath a pine tree, hands blackened and burned, as if they tried to climb in desperation. 3 more bodies are discovered over 600 meters away, collapsed midway between the tent and the forest. There, Faces are frozen in expressions of pure terror. The tint is shredded, cut from within. Bare footprints lead out into the snow, only to vanish abruptly, as if wiped clean. March. As the thaw begins, the remaining 4 bodies are found at the bottom of a snow gully. One has a crushed skull with no external bleeding. Another has a shattered ribcage, as if struck by something of immense weight. A woman is found without eyes, tongue, or part of her lips, yet no blood stains the snow, as if her body was altered after death. Among the scattered belongings, one final journal entry is found. We are no longer alone. The military establishes checkpoints around the zone, blocking all press. The local Mansi people are detained and interrogated, but released. No sign of a struggle. Experts discover unusual levels of radiation on 2 victims' clothing. There are no signs of physical struggle, yet the wounds resemble high-speed automotive collisions that a forensic doctor whispers. If I didn't know they were hikers, I'd swear they were thrown from a helicopter. Several rescue team members leave early, shaken, reporting insomnia, hallucinations, and a constant sense of being watched from the trailing. The official investigation is sealed under top secret. The conclusion is vague. The hikers died due to a natural force beyond human resistance. But leaked handwritten notes hint otherwise. A military officer reports a streak of light in the sky above the mountain on February 1 SD. A team member had spoken of visions, something in the forest, days before the tragedy. A damaged camera contains film frames showing a spherical light in the sky. Speculations flood the press and public. An avalanche? Yet no signs of burial, and the tent was still visible. Infrasound weapons? Low-frequency waves inducing panic, disorientation, even madness? Aliens? Clean incisions? Missing eyes and tongue? Radiation? Military testing? Chemical or biological warfare? A curse of the Kolat Mountain? A forbidden zone in Mansi legend? Or perhaps it was something beyond science, an ancient intelligence, older than snow, quieter than stone. 9 lives, 9 silent screams, a tent ripped from the inside, bodies scattered like broken butterflies across the snow, clothing shredded, faces frozen in terror. They did not die from the cold. They died from fear, because they saw something. What do you think it was? If you ever set foot on Kolat Cycle, the mountain of the dead, pray that it didn't see you back. Two young girls died tragically in Hexham, 1957. A year later, their parents give birth to twin girls. Never predicted. 1 bears a birthmark matching her dead sister's injury. Both name toys they've never seen. Recall towns they've never visited. And then they cry when a black car passes by. Could a soul return inside a different body? And if so, does it carry pain, too? The spirits in 2 bodies. The peaceful town of Hexham was jolted awake on the morning of May 7th, 1957, by a horrific accident. Two sisters, Joanna, 11, and Jacqueline Pollock, 6, were walking to church with a friend when a black car lost control and plowed into them. All three children fell in pools of blood. Only the friend survived with serious injuries. Joanna died instantly. Jacqueline, though still breathing, passed away en route to the hospital. The driver, a local woman, was in the midst of a mental breakdown after losing custody of her children. She claimed she had heard a voice calling from the rearview mirror, compelling her to step on the gas. She was later committed to a psychiatric hospital where she repeatedly screamed, "I was just a vessel. They called me. They called me from beyond." John and Florence Pollock, the girl's parents, were crushed by despair. Florence became distant, often staring silently out the window for hours. John, a Catholic who had secretly believed in reincarnation since youth, began to pray fervently for a miracle, to see his daughters again in any form. 1 year after the tragedy, Florence became pregnant. Though doctors detected only a single heartbeat, on October 4th, 1958, she gave birth to twin girls, Jillian and Jennifer. There was no history of twins in either family line. To John, this anomaly was a sign. Something unexplainable was unfolding. From infancy, the girls displayed strange traits. Jennifer had 2 birthmarks, one on her forehead, exactly where Jacqueline had been injured in a bicycle accident, and one on her waist, identical to her late sister's birthmark. Florence was deeply shaken. She had never mentioned the specific details of Jacqueline's marks to anyone. At 2 years old, the twins began to exhibit uncanny behaviors. One day, while cleaning out storage, John and Florence found an old toy box that had belonged to Joanna and Jacqueline. The girls had never seen it before, yet they immediately identified the items by name. "This is my doll, Florence. And that dress was Joanna's, but I'll wear it now." Florence stood frozen. The names, the ownership, all were accurate. The toys were divided exactly as the deceased girls had once done. When asked how they knew, Jillian simply shrugged. "We used to play with them in the house with the green door." John drew a map of Hexham, a place the twins had never visited, and asked them to point things out. Jennifer accurately identified Jacqueline's old school. Jillian recognized a park, a bakery, and even the wall where Joanna had once tripped, chasing a friend. But most disturbing were the nightmares. Jennifer would wake up screaming, "The car! It's coming again! Blood in my eyes!" Another night, Florence overheard her whispering in her sleep, "We were pulled down. But now, I know the way back." The twins began showing more eerie signs. Jillian, like Joanna once had, loved painting landscapes, particularly churches with red domes. Jennifer obsessively lined up her toys in straight rows, mimicking the scene of the accident. Both girls cried when they saw black cars. Once, while passing Hexham Cemetery, Jennifer clutched her mother's hand and said, "We were here, underneath, but now we're above." Jillian recalled unsettling specifics. "Joanna didn't like brushing her hair, did you know? You used to scold her for tangles, but you always kissed her forehead at bedtime." John, once desperate for a miracle, now feared what he had wished. 4. He often stood silently by the window, murmuring, "If spirits truly return, do they carry pain with them? Dr. Ian Stevenson, a renowned researcher of reincarnation, visited the Pollock family several times. He took meticulous notes, comparing the twins' statements to documented events, and concluded, "This is among the strongest cases of past life memory ever recorded." However, by age 5, the memories of the previous life began to fade. Jillian and Jennifer gradually forgot the old names, the blood-soaked dreams, and the familiarity with Hexam. Yet John believed this wasn't an end. It was the soul fulfilling its unfinished journey. One winter night, Florence dreamed of Joanna and Jacqueline standing by the window, smiling. When she asked, "Why did you return?" one of them replied, "We had not been buried in memory. Now we are." Can souls carry memories across lifetimes? Are birthmarks remnants of a past death? Can past life memories be verified by science? And if reincarnation is real, have we all lived and died before? The case is closed. But echoes from the past may still linger. You thought anonymous letters were just a prank. But what if every letter carried a curse? What if someone knew exactly what was buried under your home? What if every drop of ink was an eye watching you? And if the light they spoke of wasn't truth, but a doorway to something that should never be awakened? You've feared anonymous letters before, but this time they brought something deeper, something darker. Circleville, Ohio, autumn 1977. The falling leaves signaled the pumpkin season, but also the beginning of a long nightmare. 6 households were the first to receive anonymous letters. No return address, sealed with a strange crimson wax emblem resembling an old-world sigil. Gordon Massey, a respected school superintendent, received a letter accusing him of an affair with bus driver Mary Gillespie. Mary and her husband, Ron Gillespie, received letters stating, "Someone's been inside your child's bedroom." Each envelope was tampered with, smeared fingerprints in red ink, and an extra seal that tore if opened improperly. People began to report feelings of being watched. Flashlights danced outside windows at night. Curtains rustled with no breeze. Dogs growled at corners of empty rooms. On a stormy evening, Ron called 911. "I heard my daughter go quiet. Then she screamed. There was a horn." He stormed out of the house, panic in his eyes. 15 minutes later, his truck was found crashed into a tree, fluids pooling beneath it. His body lay still, eyes wide open. Strangely, his blood alcohol level was high, but friends swore Ron hadn't touched a drink. The way he drove wasn't like someone drunk. It was like someone overtaken, mentally hijacked, in the trunk. A container of ink solvent, commonly used to stretch fingerprint stamps. 1 week later, Mary found a strange sign nailed near her bus route. Scribbled on it, "The Brotherhood knows." Behind the sign, a loaded pistol wired to fire upon removal, a deadly trap. The note inside, "We're watching you, and we know what's buried under your house." The gun had fresh oil on the handle, and the metallic scent lingered like sweat from a corpse. The town realized this wasn't a lone madman. It was an organized network. Experts claimed at least 4 handwriting styles were present, yet 2 of them were eerily identical, as if someone had masterfully forged both sides of a false war. Someone was trying to make it look like Paul Freshour, Mary's brother-in-law, was behind everything, but he was always a step behind the actual letter drops that on one garage wall, someone spray-painted in crimson, "Let the light come." What was the light? Truth? Judgment? A supernatural cleansing? Or something more sinister? During a power outage, Mary awoke to a buzzing in her ear, like a signal from an old shortwave radio. She saw a figure move through the house. Not a person, not an animal. When the lights returned, a red fingerprint glowed on her wall, shaped like a twisted mailbox, 2 ink eyes glaring from its corners. The local journalist wrote, "This town has stopped sleeping. No one believes it's a prank. There's a watcher behind every curtain, and every mailbox may hold a ghost." Paul Freshour was arrested, accused of planting the sign and gun trap. Evidence included red ink, special stationery, and handwriting samples. But the FBI and linguistic analysts revealed forgery cannot be ruled out. The letters continued, while Paul was in solitary confinement. Some letters even hinted at a broader organization. Light is coming soon. Keep watching your windows. Some recipients fell ill after opening the envelopes, complaining of headaches, blurred vision, and a sickly sweet chemical scent. Some letters were dusted with fine white powder that glowed under UV light. In 1994, when Paul was released, the letters stopped. The case was closed as unsolved. Mary, however, suffered episodes of paranoia, claiming she heard the buzzing again and saw flickers of light outside. One letter found in a local archive years later had a chilling addition, a code embedded in invisible ink, revealed only under heat. The phrase read, "We wrote not for revenge, but to protect the Watcher's law." 1. Was the entire town under surveillance? How did the sender know what was buried beneath private homes? 2. Were there multiple senders, or just one mastermind who evolved his tactics? 3. What was the light? Was it hope, judgment, spiritual awakening, or an eldritch entity watching from above? 4. Who truly killed Ron? If it wasn't suicide, was he driven to it, or driven by someone else? 5. Why did the letters stop after 1994? Did the real orchestrator finally grow silent, or did they simply change form? Would you dare enter a swamp where a lullaby could make you disappear forever? Dozens of unexplained vanishings, whispers calling your name through the mist, and a haunting melody sung by restless spirits. This isn't folklore, it's a documented case. After tonight, you'll never hear lullabies the same way again. The Lullaby from the Swamp, Louisiana, USA, 1982 to present. The story below is based on numerous verified sources, including reports from local newspapers, files from the St. John the Baptist Parish Police Department, audio recordings housed in the Louisiana State Museum, and direct testimony from living witnesses. Information was also gathered from volunteer investigation teams, the Southern Paranormal Research Society, and journals from families of missing individuals. Manchac Swamp, located about 40 kilometers from New Orleans, is a wild stretch of marshland thick with silt, reeds, and tangled waterways. According to local lore, it was cursed long ago by a Creole who died in fury. But what truly alarmed officials and paranormal researchers alike began in 1982. The recurring phenomenon of a mysterious lullaby echoing through the swamp at night, and more disturbingly, the fact that those who hear it often vanish forever. On a cold night in November 1982, two young men, Marcus and Glenn, were working the graveyard shift at a gas station by Manchac Swamp. Around 1:45 a.m., as thick fog settled in, they both heard a female voice singing softly from across the dark swamp, where no residences or buildings existed. The singing didn't resemble any known music. It was an old lullaby, haunting and sorrowful, almost hypnotic, as if beckoning from another world. Glenn stepped out to investigate, but after a few steps into the dark, he returned in panic, pale and shaking. "I didn't see anyone, but she's calling my name," he whispered. Over the next 6 months, police received more than a dozen similar reports from truck drivers, fishermen, and hunters. All described the same ethereal melody drifting through the fog that a longtime local resident, Clarice, described it chillingly. It didn't come from the air, it came from inside you, like someone was singing inside your bones. On March 12, 1983, a group of students from Tulane University camped near the swamp's edge. The group, made up of 5 anthropology majors, set up tents and recorded field notes until late BY morning. Elise, one of the students, was gone. Her footprints trailed off into the reeds but disappeared halfway in. Despite intensive search efforts, with police and K-9 units, no trace of her was found. In her backpack, still zipped beside her tent, a small folded note was discovered, scribbled in pencil. "I must go. She's singing my name. She knows me." In desperation, Elise's parents brought in a psychic. As soon as the woman stepped into the swamp's edge, she fainted. Upon awakening, she murmured, "It's not just one woman. There are many mothers singing. They're all dead." In 1991, a team of 4 from the Louisiana Paranormal Society, including Dr. Conrad Leto, a psychology professor, set out to investigate. Armed with infrared cameras, reel-to-reel tape recorders, and electromagnetic sensors, they ventured into the mist. At 18 37 of one tape, a voice begins to sing clearly. It's female, speaking Old Creole. "Mon petit, doors dousement. La nuit est long. Le marais t'y attend." Translation: "Sleep softly, my child. The night is long. The swamp awaits you." 5 minutes later, static interrupts the audio, followed by a blood-curdling scream. The camera footage shows flashlight beams shaking wildly. Then everything cuts out. Only one of the 4 returned, a young intern named Carl Wexley. He was found 2 days later, caked in mud and cuts, mentally shattered. He never spoke normally again, and every night in his sleep, he repeated, "She's singing me to sleep. I have to sleep." Carl passed away in 2006 at a state psychiatric hospital. Locals believe the singing voice belongs to Julie White, a Creole healer and midwife who lived near the swamp in the early 20th century. According to legend, Julie was known for her gift of calling people's names from afar. During a thunderstorm in 1915, while rocking her newborn and singing on her porch, lightning struck her home. She and the baby died instantly. Suspicious townsfolk, already fearful of her reputation, buried her and her child beside the swamp, ensuring their spirits would not find peace. Since then, whenever fog rolls over Manchac, people claim to hear her mournful lullaby. Strangely, every missing person incident is preceded by reports of the same exact voice, even though few had ever heard of Julie beforehand. In 2007, wildlife photographer Douglas Hartley joined a research team exploring the swamp. Among hundreds of night shots taken with infrared, one picture stunned the group. In the frame, enhanced digitally, was a woman's face in the mist, with hollow black eyes, lips mid-song, and hair dripping wet. She was staring directly at the camera. Hartley refused to release the photo. He later burned the negatives and retired. His posthumous journal revealed chilling words, "I don't know what I photographed, but if the image reached someone who wasn't meant to see it, it would call them." After 2010, reports of the lullaby dwindled. Skeptics claimed it was a mass auditory hallucination caused by the swamp's acoustics and psychological suggestion. But in October 2022, two Canadian tourists documenting swamp wildlife recorded a 37-second video. In it, the lullaby can be clearly heard, and at second 25, a faint child's giggle responds. Zooming into the footage, analysts spotted a white silhouette gliding over the water, never touching the ground, before vanishing into the reeds. The tourist YouTube channel was soon hacked. The original video was wiped, but a backup copy has since circulated in paranormal forums under the title, "The Song of the Swamp." To this day, no one has fully explained the singing phenomenon at Manchac Swamp. Was it truly Julie White's restless spirit, a mental illusion, or something older, ancient, inhabiting the swamp and calling to those who pass too near? French ethnographer Lucien Marichal proposed a darker theory. Julie was only the first. The entity, whatever it is, needs lullabies to reach the human mind. Each lost soul becomes its new voice, singing for the next. That lullaby, was it the voice of a vengeful ghost, a supernatural being, or simply the human mind unraveling in the dark? If you heard it tonight, soft, gentle, whispering your name, would you walk toward it or run away? The story ends here, but the mystery still lingers somewhere out there, hiding in the dark. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. If you felt a chill down your spine, don't forget to subscribe, turn on the bell, and share this story. We'll meet again in the next night with another mystery. Good night.